All right, good morning, everyone. We will start in next 2-3 minutes. All right, so if you have any question, just post it in the chat window. All right, so today let's start with stored procedures. So, stored procedures. So let's first see how we can write a stored procedure. Okay. So to write a stored procedure, what you have to do, you have to use something called create. So everything, whenever you create something in SQL, you have to use start it with create. And what you want to create, if you want to create a table, you have to use table. If you want to create a procedure, you have to use procedure. If you want to create a function, you have to use function. So here we are trying to create a procedure, so we have to write here procedure. And here we have to specify the procedure name. and here we have to use as, and here we have to use begin, and then whatever the thing you want to perform, and then we have to end it. So this is the standard format or template of creating a stored procedure. Now let's try to create it. So I will write it over here. Create procedure, procedure name, get sales as begin and here what you want. So I want data from sales table, and from sales I want the sum of amount or price. You can indent it also, something like this. And now let's create it. Now my procedure got executed. And now how you can run it? To run it, you have to write exec, that is execute, get underscore sales, that is the name of the procedure. So now if I run it, you will see I'm getting the total price value, that is the sum of my sales column or price column from the sales table. So if I write sales, and now if I run it, you will see this is my sales table data and this is my price column, and this procedure has a query that is sum of price. So it is going to add all these values and it is going to return it. So how we created it: create procedure get sales. This is the name of the procedure. You can give it any name, and here you have to write it as, and then you have to write begin, and here you have to write the query that you want to perform. You can write it as a star also. So to execute it, what you have to write, you have to give exec, that is execute, the name of the procedure, something like this. Now the question is, what is the use of this stored procedure? Because I can write a query something like this also. Instead of writing this whole procedure, I can simply write this. So why we need to write all this? Why I have to use it as a stored procedure? Okay. Why can't I just use this query? Okay. Can anyone just put it in the chat window? What is the use of this stored procedure? Why we need this stored procedure? Why stored procedure? Why can't we just have this select sum from sales in place of why we have to write it all? Create procedure, procedure name, begin, this, like this. Okay, so the thing is, if you look at over here in the database, so in which database I'm working? If you see, I'm working on e-commerce database. So this is my database. If I expand it, here these are my tables, and here if you see the programmability, if I click over here, you will find the stored procedure. If I expand it further, I have my stored procedure, that is dbo.getSales. Okay, so The beauty of this is that, let's say around 10 days, after 10 days I want to find out again the total sales. I don't have to write select sum from blah blah blah. I can simply write exec dbo dot get sales, and if I execute it, I will get an answer. I don't have to write the queries again and again. So the second thing is that it saves your time. Okay, so what happens is we don't have to write query again and again. So why I'm saying so, because these are the query windows. If you see, these are the query windows. If I close these query windows, my queries will get lost. Either I have to save these queries, otherwise what will happen, these queries will gone. Now if tomorrow you again want to run these queries, you have to rewrite it. So in place of that, what you can do, you can create a stored procedure and you can simply execute it. So when you execute, whatever the query that is being written inside it, so what query is written inside it? As of now, the query return is select sum alt price sales. So will be retrieved. So tomorrow if I want to change it, I can simply write alter, and here I can use, let's say I want the whole data of sales. And now if I execute it, my procedure got altered, and now if I execute it, you will see that it is giving me the output as a row. So you can create it or you can alter it. So this is the first use of stored procedure. Second use of stored procedure is the performance. Now you will ask, why performance? So running this query, I will write it as sum price as it is, and now I will again. Now running this query and this query has a difference. Okay. Now here you see, those who know C, C++, Java. So those who know C, C++, Java, C, C++, Java, you have a source code file like sum.c or sum.java, something like this. These are called source code files. So you compile them. So what you do, you compile it, and when you compile it, it becomes an executable file. Okay. So this takes time. This compilation takes time, and after this compilation, you actually run your program. Like you want to add two numbers, you execute this program and it will give you an output. So this part of code, this compilation, it takes time. Okay. So imagine that every time when you want to run a program, let's say you want to add a two numbers a and b, you keep writing these Java files and C files, and then again you compile it, and then you get an executable file, and then you run it, and then you will add two numbers. Right. So every time whenever you want to do add two numbers, you are doing all this. Right. So instead of that, once you have executable file, you will run this part of the code, this running part of the code, multiple times. Instead of running it from here, I'm going to run it. Okay. So this part of code, running this part of code only, will take less time compared to starting from the beginning, step 1, step 2, step 3. So if you start from step 1 and you go till step 3, it is going to take a lot of time. Instead of that, if you go from step 2 to step 3, it is going to take a less time. Okay. So what stored procedure does, what in SQL happens is, whenever you run some query, what happens, there is a thing called SQL engine. So what we have, you have a SQL engine. So whenever you write a query, let's say select star from sales. So this query goes to the SQL engine. SQL engine checks it, compiles it, and after that it goes to execution. And then you will get an output. So now what we do, instead of again and again writing select star from sales, so if you remember in all my classes I was again writing select star from sale, then next day again I'm writing select star from sale. So every time what happens, it goes to SQL engine, it checks my code, it compiles it, and then the query will be executed. So this part of a code is unnecessary taking time. Every time I'm executing the every time it is taking a lot of time because of the extra step, that is the compilation. Okay, so now what I will do, I will keep a copy over here. So I will do this step one time only by creating a stored procedure. So whatever we were doing create procedure as that, I will run it and it will be compiled once, and from next time onwards I'm going to use only this part of a code. So that is the execute procedure name. Okay, so now these if you compare from this query compared to only executing a procedure, this is going to be very very fast. Okay, so why this performance is very very important in databases, because consider you are working on Amazon database. Okay, so millions of users are connected to the Amazon website, and millions of users are searching the billions of products, and billions of products are getting purchased every minute, every second. So the performance is very important. It will not be like every time you compile a query and run it. You once you what you do, you compile it once and you execute it, you run it again and again as and when required. So this is very very important. It is not the reusability thing, it is the important thing or beauty of the stored procedure is the performance. So people don't use it just because they don't have to repeat it again and again. They use it because of the performance, right? So you will see that those who understand the web programming, so those who understand web programming, there is a web page, let's say purchase dot anything like ASPX, PHP, JSPX, whatever, or PHP or JSP, whatever. So here you search, you order a product. Okay, so this web page is connected with the database, maybe SQL Server, MySQL, or whatever. Okay, so lot of time, if you just initially started web programming, you will see people write a code, select product, select star from product here in the web page only. This is insecure. A lot of people do select star from product in the web page only, so this is insecure. It is prone to SQL injection, if you heard of this, and other security issue this has. So that is why a professional programmers or web developers, they write database operations in the stored procedure. So what a stored procedure does, instead of writing this select star from product here in the web page, they write it in the database, and here they will just use the execute get sales. So the query is behind the stored procedure. It is not directly in front of the web page. So that is why the security is also one of the benefit of the stored procedures. So one is the performance, non-repetition of work, and another one is the security. Okay, now let's try to write one more stored procedure, but this time, so here you see, when I created this stored procedure, this procedure is created inside the DBO schema. If you see, that is why it has a dbo.getSave. If I create it in some other schema, let's say I create one more schema, create operations, create schema operations. It's I created one schema, and here now I'm going to use operations dot get sales. So I have created one schema, and now I have created the procedure also, but this time instead of default DBO, I am creating it in the operations table. And now if I refresh it, now you will see you have dbo.getSales as well as you have operations.getSales. So if you have lot of procedures in your database, you can logically group them into the schema. Okay, so this is how you create a procedure. Now let's say if I just look into this, now here you see I have these products, 1 2 1 2 3 4 5 6 8, something like this. I want the sum. So in this procedure, I am using sum price sales. I don't want the total sum of the all the sales. I just want the sum of price of the product number one, or where the product ID is one. So what I want to write this query something like this, where product ID equals to one. Okay. And now let's try to run it. So I'm going to alter it. So now in place of select some price from sales, I have where product ID equals to 1. And here I am going to use operations. And now you see it is giving me the price of the product ID 1, this and this. So this is 600 plus 235. So it is giving me an output of 835.75. But the issue with this type of query is that I have restricted my stored procedure to the product ID 1. Let's say I want the value for product ID 2 or 3 or 4 or 8. So in that case, if I run this stored procedure, it is not going to give me. So that is why we need to have a parameterized stored procedure. I'll remove this part. So how to write a parameterized stored procedure? So now what you have to do, you have to give it a input. So my product ID will become an input over here. So what I'm going to write, I'm going to write a parameter. To write a parameter, you have to use @ the parameter name. So let's say PID is my parameter, and what is the data type? Integer is the data type. And here I am going to write @PID. So what I did, I am using @PID and the data type of this PID. What this PID will store? So it is going to store the product ID, which is an integer. So I have to specify integer, and that I have to pass it over here. And now let's alter this. And now if I run this, it is asking me that it expects a parameter @PID. So here I have to mention parameter ID, let's say 1. So now if I execute it, it is going to give me 835.75. That is the total sum of the product ID 1. If I write 2 over here, it will give you 200. Now if I pass 3, is giving me the total sum of price of the sales where the product id is 3. So what happens, this 3 goes to this parameter pid, and here it will become 3. Okay, and now this query will be a select some price from sales where product id equals to pid. So this is very very important. Now your procedure is becoming dynamic. You can pass anything, it will execute and it will pass. So this is called parameterized stored procedure. Okay, any doubt in this, you can post your queries in the chat window. So what you have to do, you have to write alter procedure operations dot get sales pid int, and here you have to write where clause. Okay, so now the beauty of this is this procedure becomes dynamic procedure. It can take a product id and then it will run the values. So this is very very important. So I'll again quickly explain you. For parameterize, create, you have to write as procedure, and then the procedure name, let's say dbo dot whatever the procedure name you want to give, p name, as begin, and here you have to write your parameters, param name and the data type, and here you can write your query like this. So it is not like you always write a select query over here. You can write any query, update, alter, delete. You can write any kind of query inside the stored procedure. Okay, also you can have a multiple parameters. So tomorrow, let's say I want, so if I run this, I also want the price, the quantity which is more than or the price which is more than 300. So in that case, I can write at the rate price value, and here I can write decimal 5 comma 2, and here I can write and price is greater than equals to at the rate p value. And now if I run it, and now if I try to execute it, and so here I have to specify the price value also, and now if I run it, it will give me value. So why it is giving you null? Reason being, the product 4 has a value less than 300, and now if I run this, you will see I'm getting 350. Okay, so now you can write something like this. You can create a default value also. Let's say here I have to pass 1 and 300 both. I don't want to pass, so here you can specify the default value. So here I can specify it as 0, and now if I run it, now without passing this also it is giving me a value. So I can pass one or both parameters or just a single parameter. In both the cases you will get an output. So the things to remember over here is that you can have a stored procedure. The stored procedures can have the parameters, and you can have multiple parameters. You can also have a default parameter, right? So the difference between the default parameter and non-default parameter, in default parameter you can specify it in the while executing a procedure, or you can skip it. In both the approach it will work. Okay, and the benefit of stored procedure is basically three benefits are there. Don't write query again and again, so you don't have to write queries. Performance, it has improved performance, it is going to take less time, and it is secure. So why I'm focusing on this? Because you so even if you are fresher or experienced, you will ask this like interviewers will ask this question a lot of time. I have personally asked it couple of time, I have given this answer couple of time, and I have seen it in on so many blogs. People ask this question, what is stored procedure, or why we use stored procedure. So always remember this.
गरम
Oh,
कितने चार
now let's okay, now next thing that we will cover is functions. Now you will see in this stored procedure, it's not returning any value. So what we are doing is we are just running a query over here. So here you see select some price from sales. So I'm just running a query and it is giving me the output. So what we are doing, it is selecting, and when you select it, it gives you an output in the tabular format. I don't want it. I want something to return me. Okay. So one thing is that I was not able to answer you people on WhatsApp because of my other commitments and engagement in office. So but I followed your question later, tonight, yesterday night. And so what happened is I was not able to answer your queries. So some of you were asking about the capitalizing the first word in a sentence or in your column. So all those things can be done using the functions. Okay. So why we need function, let's see, and what is function also. So to create a function, what you have to do, you have to write the same thing like a stored procedure. So we will write create function database name or a schema name that we talked about dot function name. Here you can pass the parameters, and here what you want to return. So it returns the data type. Let's say integer as begin. Here you have to write a select query or whatever you want to write, and then here you will return that, and then you will end it. Okay. So let's see here, or let's say we have created other tables also. Students profile. So here you see student basic details, and now if I run it, you will see these are my names. I just want the first character of my student name, so I will get S, R, and S. So let's see how we can do that. So what I'm going to write, I'm going to create a function, create. I will write here function, and here I will write get first letter, or first letter. And here what I want to pass at the rate student name. And what would be the data type? Let's say varchar 100. And what it want to return? So I want to return. So here you see you have to write the parameters in the brackets. So here I have written the parameter student name. And what it is going to return? So returns, let's say char 1, because I just want the first character or the first letter of my name. And here I will write as, and here I will write begin. And now I am going to write a variable declaration, declare at the rate c, that is char 1. And now I am going to write select at the rate c equals to substring. Here I will write student name, and I want the first character from at the rate student name, and I am going to return that, return at the rate c, and here I am going to end it. And now let's run it. So it executed successfully. And now let's try to see how we can run it. So select star from student basic detail, and if I run this, I run this, I will get this output. And here I will also write dbo dot get first letter, and here I'm going to pass student underscore name. And now let's run it. And now you see I am getting SRS, which is the first letter of your student name. So let's see what we did. So what we did, we created one function that is dbo.get underscore first underscore letter. Inside that I am passing the student name. So it is, this function will run row wise. So here, then here, then here. So first it is running on the first row. So in the first row, whatever the student name is, so student name is Saurabh. This Saurabh will go to this at the rate student name. And here, what I am doing, this is a function called get underscore first underscore letter, and this will return you one character. So these are my one character. So that is why I have to mention the data type, the return type. If you remember the functions, you have to specify the return type. So in the same way here in the SQL function also, you have to write a return type. But this time you don't have to mention here while creating, you have to mention in the next line or here. And then you have to write a as, and then you have to write a begin, and here what you want to perform with this function. So I declared one variable at the rate c, and what is the data type of this at the rate c? One character, that is char 1. And now what I am doing, I am creating a substring, that is extracting the substring from the student name Saurabh, and I want to extract 1 comma 1, that is the starting from the first position. I want to extract one letter. So 1 comma 1 means from the first letter I want to extract just one letter, that is S. and here are, and here sham. So what I am doing, I am extracting, and then I'm storing it in the @c. So select @c equals to substring. So this will extract the first letter from the student name, and it will store it in the @c. And now it is going to return @c. Okay, so this @c will now be returned to this function, and it will be stored over here in place of this call. And now this will have s over here, r over here, and s over here, because we are calling this function over each row of the select query, that is select star from dbo dot student underscore basic data. Okay, so what we did, we created one function, we call that function in the execute query, right? So how we declare it? Create function, function name, parameters. So whenever we talk about parameters in SQL, you have to write @ and the parameter name and the data type. So here I have to write it like this. Then there is a fixed keyword as, then there is a fixed keyword begin, and what you want to do. So I want to declare one variable. Why I have to declare one variable? Because I want to return it. Here you have to mention the return type also. So returns, what I want to return, I want to return integer or char. So here I want to return char, or you can write it as a data type. So I will write data type. Declare your variable name, again data type, and then you have to write a select. Why we need to declare this variable? Because I have to return something, that is why I will use that something, and then you have to return that where, and then you have to end it. Let's create one more function. So now here you see, this is giving me the first letter. I want the length of my name also. So I will create one more function, get name length, and here instead of integer, now this time it is going to return me the instead of character, this time it is going to return me the integer. And in place of substring function, I'm going to use len function. And now if I run it, now you see my new function got created. Now along with this get first letter, I can use get name len, and here also I will pass student underscore name. And now if I execute it, now you see it is giving me length also. So this is how you create it. And now the way stored procedures were coming over here, in the same way you will see functions. And now if I explore this, you will find the functions over here. Okay, so this is how it is going to return you the values. This is how you can create the function. The difference between the stored procedure and function is that if you want to return something, you have to use functions. If you just want to execute something, you write it inside the stored procedure. And functions will be executed row wise, or it will be applied on each row of your table. Okay, now what you have to do, so if you remember one of our table that we discussed around 2 days back. So here I have one table called student score, and here I have a student name, and here I have a score. So if you remember, I don't want to output like this. I want the scores to be in A, B, C grades. Okay, so what I want, if you remember, let me see if I have that. Okay, let me write it again. So what I want, if your score is between 90 and 100, I want to give a grade. If your score is between 70 and 90, 89, I want to give B grade. If it's between 60 and 69, I want to give C grade. If it is between 50 and 59, I want to give D grade. Otherwise, I want to give else. I want to give, or you can say less than 50, less than 50. I want to give it as fail or F grade. Okay. So right now the output is something like this. So right now your output is something like this, and I want something in space of scores. I want the grade. Okay. So what you have to do, you have to create a function to do this. So what you have to do, you have to create a function and then you have to execute a function in the select query. Okay. Just quickly write a function and put it in the chat window. Just quickly do it. You have 5 minutes for that. Yeah, just quickly write it the function and then put it in the chat window. And now let's see how we can do that. So what we need is we need a function. So we'll write create function. Here we will write get grades. Here we will write @score s as decimal f comma 2, and here we will write returns. What it will returns? It returns a varchar, let's say 10, as begin, and here we will write declare @grade varchar 10, and here we will write select @g equals is when at the rate student name score is less than equals to 100 and score is greater than equals to 90, then I want grade A. When score is less than 90 and score greater than equals to 70, yes, 70, then grade B. When score is less than 70, or you can write it like less than equals to 89, less than equals to 69, and score is greater than equals to 60, then grade C. When less than 50, then and here I'm going to return this return at the rate G, and here we have to use, instead of a score, we have to use at the rate S. So now you have whatever the value you pass. Let's say if I pass 90, so this value at the rate S will be compared in the case when, and whatever the value case that is true. So let's say if the S is 90, so this condition will be true and the grade A will be stored in at the rate G, and this at the rate G will be returned. And now let's try to run this, executed successfully. And now let's try to run select star from student score. And here if I just run select star from student score, I will not get grades. So here I will call the function. So I will write, what is the name of the function? Get underscore grades, and here I will pass the score. And now if I execute it, get underscore grade here, okay, you have to use dpo. So now you see it is giving me grades also. So what you have to do, you have to write a function. So this was my function get grades. So create function get grade. Inside that we have to pass the score. So I'm going to pass 90. So this 90 should be stored in some variable. So the variable name is the at the rate s, and what it is going to store, it is going to store decimal 5,2, because my score is in decimal 90.00. And then what I want to return, I want to return grade A, grade B, grade C. So that is why I have used returns where char, and then I have to write as begin. And now we have to declare one variable, that is at the rate G. This at the rate G will store whatever the string grade A, grade B, grade C, grade D in the at the rate G variable. And on what basis it is going to store, depending upon the at the rate s value. So if it is between 90 and 100, grade A will be stored in at the rate G. If it is 85, This condition will be true, so grade v will be stored in the at the rate g. So whatever the value at the rate g will have, that we have to return. So that is why at the end of this we have to write return at the rate g, and now we have to execute it like this. Okay, so this is how we write it. This is how we write the function. Okay, so I'm done for today, and now I'm open for queries. Please post your queries in the chat window. Nandini, can't we use between? Yes, Nandini, we can use between also. So in place of this at the rate, something like this, we can use between also here. Can we use score between? Yes. Okay, that is right. If we don't know the application logic, can we understand that by executing stored procedure? Sorry, all rounder pro, I'm not able to understand your question. Can you post it again? Like what you want to understand from the executing the stored procedure? Can you post your query again? Synchron by using case, yes. Amit Gachkal, difficult to understand. Amit, can you post it exactly what you are not able to understand so that I can repeat it again? Nandini not able to log in. Maybe some login issue, Nandini. I will check into it. Please explain at the rate PID part again. Sorry, missed it. Okay, try to be in the session throughout the one hour. If you go in and out, then it will be difficult for me to explain. Okay, so what is PID? So here, if you see, I want to create one stored procedure. That stored procedure is get sales. Okay, and that stored procedure takes the PID, product ID, because I want the sales of a particular product. So I have to pass a PID into it. So if you see, if I just use select star from sales, and if I run it, you will see I have PID over here, I have a price over here. I want the total price of a product that I'm interested in. Let's say I'm interested in the product ID 1. So I have one over here, I have one over here. So the price, total price is 350 plus 250 plus 235. Okay, so that comes out to be 835. So my output should be 835. So to do that, I am going to pass here at the rate PID. So here I will have one. This one will go in the where clause of your select query. So select some price from sales where product ID equals to 1. So now this procedure, if I create it again, and now if you see here, this, to execute it, I have to write exec and the my procedure name is operations.getSales, and here I have to pass the product ID. So this one will go over here. From here it will go inside this select sum from sales where product ID equals to 1, and now if I execute it, it is going to return me 835, which is the total price of the product ID 1. If I pass 2 over here, it is going to give me the total price of the product ID 2. So basically PID is nothing but it's a parameter of the stored procedure. While executing, can we pass parameter name instead of value? See, when you execute it, it needs a value. Okay, so so what you are talking about, if you write it over here at the rate product ID, okay, this is the variable name, this will not work. You have to put the value. So if you really want to do it like this, what you have to do, you have to declare at the rate product ID int equals to 1, and now if you execute it, it will run. So what this mean is, anyway it is going to need a value, and that value you can declare it like this, or you can just pass it like this. Okay, please explain PID part. We have covered. We can retrieve info by specific name. Yes, we can retrieve. Yes, Nair can call procedure any number of times. Yes, Nair, you can call procedure any number of times. Okay, let's take any. Uh, I think then grade won't be possible. Sorry. Can we use if? Yes, yes, Nitin, you can use if also, but case is suitable over here. What is the difference between the stored procedure and function? When you, if you miss the session in between, the difference between the stored procedure and function is that if you want to return a value, if you use the stored procedure, if you use the stored procedure, you cannot return it. Using function, you can return a value. We have submitted the assignment one. Any feedback? When we use begin and end, Sumana, is basically a block of code. So this is basically, this query, I'm logically putting it in a block, so that is why I have to write begin and end, right? So it is always recommended that you should use begin and end. So if you have, like in actual real world, we write procedures that has around 100 lines of code, 200 lines of code. So in that case, these block of code are very important, so that any other person, let's say I wrote a query and tomorrow my colleague want to work onto it, so he should able to understand where the query starts and where it ends. Difference between function and procedure, I already gave it, Nandini. Where to use which one? Okay, so if you see here, if you want to execute a multiple queries, okay, then you have to use a stored procedure. So like in the example that I mentioned around a day ago, where we were using this form, I don't know where is that form. So the form in which I have student basic details and qualification. So in that form, okay, here it is. So if you see this form, in this web form, I am using two tables, student basic details and student qualification. I want to insert data into these two tables, and the second table depends on the first table because of the student type. So all this kind of things will be done, and it is recommended, and I personally use in all my project that has billions of hits and millions of user. In those projects also I use stored procedure. For doing this kind of work, we use stored procedures, right? So when you have to do a lot of big queries and a lot that depends on multiple tables and that has a web page linked to it, always use stored procedure. Okay. And coming to function, if you want to do something like you guys were struggling with the capital, or the first letter as a capital letter in each word or the in the name, so for these kind of work you have to use functions. Okay. So functions are basically, something that is unique, that can be applied on any table. Usually people declare it as a function, right? That is not table dependent. So like capitalizing a word, so you pass any word from any table, maybe customers, maybe product name, maybe any other name. Okay. So for that, what you do, you create a function. I hope it answered, Nandi. If we have DB access for any application, example ticket booking system, my question is, can we understand logic of that application by see all rounder pro? Okay, so can I know your name? Just put your name in the chat window. Okay, okay. Oh man, I missed the screen sharing. Okay, so now can you see my screen? So what I was talking about this online form, in this online form, form, I am using two tables, student basic details and student qualification, and both are dependent, like second table depends on first table. And so these kind of work I personally do in stored procedure, and it is recommended to use stored procedure in such kind of thing. But let's say you want to do the first name, you want to capitalize the first name, last name, or middle name of the student. So in that case, you declare a generic function that is capitalize a word, and then you can use it. Okay. So in this is how you can use stored procedure and function. Okay, so coming to okay, okay. So if we have an access to DB of any application, see it, you can understand an idea about what your program is all about or your application is all about, but it all depends on what you actually return in your stored procedure. So sometimes, like here, uh, so in this example, what I am doing is I am creating an stored procedure, or I will create an stored procedure that will store the details of the student from this online form. So by looking at the stored procedure, I can get an idea that this application is all about getting the online applications from the students. So by looking at the stored procedure, I can find out the application logic. But sometimes it not always happen. Sometimes people write multiple stored procedure. So it all depends on what you have written in the stored procedure. Accordingly, you will get an idea about the application logic. Okay, any other question? Just put it in the chat window, or I will end the session. How was the session? Were you guys able to say, see, these are the advanced topics in SQL, but I tried my level best to explain you in easy way. So just post your comments about the today's session. Others, any doubt, or if you are able to understand the stored procedure and function concepts, just put it in the chat window. And one more thing is, those who are interested in data science, I'm going to start my new batch of data science. Those who are interested, they can connect to me through WhatsApp. I will share the details. So tomorrow I will cover few more advanced topics like views and cursors. We don't have much free sessions after this. Okay, so don't miss the session. These are, I personally feel that me and Deepak putting a lot of efforts in it. So try to be attentive, try to be regular, so that you will get benefited from this free session. Thank you guys. Thank you. Post it in your about WhatsApp group if you have any issues or any queries. So I'm like, because of my work and all, I was not able to answer you on WhatsApp, but I will try. Once these sessions are over, I will get enough space, and then I will try to answer all your queries. Thank you guys. Thank you so much.